Nissan has a strategy to save itself. And, well, I was skeptical before. Now I know exactly what it is. Nissan doesn't really want to tell you the truth. Nissan's disclosed their plan on how they're going to save the company, and it's all bullshit. It's all like just nonsense, right? The true plan of what Nissan's really doing to save the company actually could work. It's not what they're telling anyone. They're not actually publicly disclosing what their real plan is, but, well, it's pretty clear what it is. And, well, I think once you've seen this video, you're going to agree that this is the only thing that could save Nissan. And actually, it's very, very much a smart strategy. Nissan hopes China will save it. That's Nissan's plan. China making cars in China with their Chinese joint venture partners, and to be honest, basically rebadging Chinese branded vehicles as Nissans. That's what Nissan says is their strategy to save the company. They're not saying it outright, but this is what they're doing. And I think that they are actually 100% correct. This is the only way Nissan can resurrect itself, pull itself back out of the grave and become relevant again, actually make money. Nissan have just recently revealed 2 different cars. And I've got to say, if Nissan reveal these globally, these vehicles worldwide, and they can actually pull this off and sell them in the States and sell them all around the world, which they say they're planning on doing, I think it's a good strategy. I mean, we haven't been able to say this about Nissan for a long time, that they have good strategies, but this is a good strategy. The latest Nissan plan is interesting because they're going to sell the Frontier Pro. So you guys in the US, you've been up by the Frontier Pro trucks for quite a while now. It's a pickup truck. Obviously, we call them utes here in Australia. But this Frontier Pro in China is very different. It's a plug-in hybrid, yeah? So Nissan wants to rebadge this, what is really, it's not a Nissan as such. It's actually really, it's really a Dongfeng, but actually it's quite good. It's similar to the BYD Shark, but in some ways it's better than a BYD Shark. So that's Nissan's first part of their plan. Their second part is to sell this new electric SUV, which is a bit bigger than their other vehicles. It's sort of it's about the size of a Chevy Blazer. Yeah. So it's a bit bigger than a Tesla Model Y. And there's 2 versions of this. There's an electric version and there's an EREV version. And the EREV version is going to be using CATL's battery tech. I believe it's actually going to use CATL's sodium and lithium iron phosphate hybrid battery. When I say hybrid battery, I don't mean a hybrid car. I mean a hybrid battery that uses cells that are sodium and cells that are lithium iron phosphate, combines them together, and that enables them to provide a very, very low cost EREV battery, which can charge in freezing temperatures in the United States, northern United States. You can have this car no problems, and it can charge minus 20 degrees Celsius. It charges at 90% of its normal capacity. Amazing. So that is going to give Nissan a big advantage. Only thing is, can Nissan sell these cars in the US, all right, with Chinese batteries? That might be the challenge. But they can sell them everywhere else, right? They can sell them in Europe, they can sell them in Australia, they can sell them in all the other car markets around the world. And let's be real here. These cars are being made in China, so it's cheaper to make them. It's much cheaper to manufacture these cars in China and then sell them as global vehicles. Plus, I've got to say, they do look pretty good, both of them. Nissan has just introduced their new midsize SUV, right? It's in partnership with Dongfeng. So really, it's a Dongfeng vehicle that's been sort of reworked to become a Nissan. And this is part of the budget-conscious N-Series lineup. So they're going to be selling these in China. It's called the NX8, and it joins the N6 and N7 sedans. And there's going to be a couple of choices. Like I said, fully electric and EREV. In terms of the looks, it doesn't look bad, doesn't look great. It just looks okay, inoffensive. That's probably what a lot of people want in a car. To me, though, what's more interesting is the specifications here. It's 4,870 millimeters long. So it's about 100 millimeters longer than a Tesla Model Y. It's about 4 inches longer. It's 191.7 inches long. And the width is 1,920 millimeters, about the same width as a Model Y, 75.6 inches wide. Height, 1,680 millimeters, which is 66 inches. That means that it's 8.7 inches longer than the Nissan Rogue, which is the X-Trail. So 8.7 inches. That's a fair bit longer. It's 152 millimeters shorter, which is 6 inches shorter than the Pathfinder. but its wheelbase is longer than the Pathfinder's wheelbase. So as you can see, it doesn't have a long bonnet like internal combustion cars do. So even though it's actually smaller than a Pathfinder, the interior space is larger than the Pathfinder. I think that's a really good design decision. And it really is in direct contrast to some of the cars we've seen, for example, Mazda's latest electric SUV, which half the car is the bonnet of the car. And, some brands are doing that. Really long, impractical cars. This car, I think they've really thought about. I like it. So there's going to be actually, I believe, a 5-seat configuration and possibly also a 7-seat setup too. It is big enough to have 7 seats. The fully electric versions, right? You get a choice. There's all-wheel drive and single rear-wheel drive. The single motor puts out 288 horsepower, which is 215 kilowatt. Now, I don't know the details on the all-wheel drive yet, but there is a more powerful single motor version that has 335 horsepower, which is 250 kilowatt. It's not really a car made to be a performance vehicle, but that's probably not what most people want. We don't know what the range of that car is going to be yet, but I would estimate it'll be probably 500 to 600 kilometers of range. The range extended version will have a 1.5 litre turbocharged engine, which is not connected to the wheels, right? And I like that. I think it's a good idea. All it does is recharge the battery when you decide to recharge the battery. So you can set it up so it recharges the battery when you hit 5% or 10%, or you can set it up, recharges the battery when the battery hits 50%. It's really up to you. That engine puts out 146 horsepower, which is 109 kilowatt. Not much power, but it's made for efficiency. It's got that same electric motor, pretty similar to the electric motor in the EV. It's got 262 horsepower, which is 195 kilowatt. And you're probably going to get pretty good range from this car because I think from what I'm hearing, it's a pretty big battery. Don't know the exact size yet, but I'm estimating 150 to 200 kilometers of electric only range using that hybrid sodium lithium iron phosphate battery. And it can charge really quickly, 5C charging. So estimate would be 350 kilowatt charging. That's a big advantage over all the other hybrids, EREVs, or not EREVs necessarily, but all the plug-in hybrids, which you can buy in the United States right now, you can buy in Australia now, you can buy in Europe. They pretty much all have absolutely horrendous charging speeds. I mean, to me, I just don't understand why car manufacturers thought it was acceptable to put, some of these plug-in hybrids do not have DC fast charging. Nothing. You can't DC fast charge them. What a joke that is. Even modern ones. And some of, obviously a lot of modern plug-in hybrids, if they do have DC fast charging, it's only 50 kilowatt max. 50 kilowatt, what? So that's one of the big advantages of these new CATL architectures. This uses an 800 volt architecture and, like I said, approximately 350 kilowatt charging. So it's in a different league. So, I mean, Nissan didn't have to develop this tech. Nissan didn't have to make these batteries. Nissan didn't have to build this 800 volt architecture. This is all done by their Chinese partner. And the tech is better than what you can find in the US, what BYD's making. This actually does give Nissan a significant advantage versus its rivals because, well, they've got better tech. So the market launch of this car, when's it coming? Apparently it's coming in China in 2026, middle of the year. I don't know when it's coming to other markets, how long it's going to take, but I'm guessing it'll be by the end of 2026, early 2027. We know the Frontier Pro is coming in the first quarter of 2027, based on what Nissan has said. My guess is that this NX8 will come in the first quarter as well. Will this car come to markets like Europe, Australia, Southeast Asia? Yeah, of course. What else is Nissan going to do? Nissan does not have any money to put into developing new cars. If Nissan wants a new car, right, they're saying they're going to have all these new models. The only way, and I've said this many times, the only way Nissan can actually bring out a new model is to rebadge another car. What do they just do in the United States, for example? They rebadged the Mitsubishi, right, the Outlander. They just put a new badge on it. They did nothing to the car. Just rebadged it. That's it. Took off the Mitsubishi badge, basically got a bit of fishing line, just sliced it off, and stuck on a Nissan badge. Now, I'm exaggerating, but that's literally all that was done to it. So that's what Nissan's basically doing in China. They don't have any money. These guys no one's going to give Nissan any money, right? And if they do give Nissan money, it's like a loan shark rate. Like that's Nissan's bank rates right now. They're junk plus. Their debt is junk plus. It's garbage debt. And it just got downgraded, right? It was junk. It got downgraded to double junk. I mean, it's not called double junk, but it got downgraded from junk to the next lower level below junk. That was a couple of months ago. What does that mean for Nissan's financing, debt raising? It's so hard for these guys to get money. and they're still losing money. So this is the Hail Mary. This is the only thing that's going to work, and it will work. I mean, if Nissan tomorrow was able to sell these cars from Dongfeng worldwide, replace their entire car lineup everywhere around the planet with these Chinese cars, all of their cars would be better. All of them would be up there with having some of the best technology in the world. And they'd be cheaper to manufacture. This is actually the perfect strategy. But of course, the Trojan horse factor is a big issue, which Michael Dunn has talked about, and that could be an issue, but it will save them. We'll give them at least 5 years. So what do you guys think? I mean, guys, look at the pricing. Apparently in China, these cars are going to cost $17,000 to $21,000. I'm going to guess the EV version might be about $20,000 in China, approximately. But $17,000 for the cheapest version, $21,000 for the most expensive version. And that is a price that people would pay for this kind of car. I think they would. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.